A little bit about how we're set up. So on our fire program, we sort of operate on the program side of our agency. So my supervisor is Chris Robertson. He's our state fire supervisor. And then there's myself that covers Central and Eastern Maryland. And Shannon Wolf, he covers Southern region and Western Maryland. So depending on where you're at, you may be interacting with one of the two of us. And then under us, we've got some program-specific people. You know, some of them are more involved in the prescribed fire side of things. Some of them are more involved in operations and all that. But if you get outside, as far as how many people here are private landowners? So a couple of you is good. So depending on what county you're in, you call us, you say, hey, we want to do a prescribed burn or something like that. We're going to probably refer you to the ranger or the forester that works in that county. So on our operations side of things, our counties our projects are broken up into multi-county projects, so to speak. Like for example, here on the shore, Kent and Queen Anne's County is a project. Dorchester, Talbot, and Caroline's a project, and then the lower Wycomico, Worcester, and Somerset, they're a project. So depending on where you're at, you may get to talk to different folks. But for the sake of ease, I'll say this now. Remind me here at the end, and I'll give you all my email address. If you have any needs or interests, shoot me an email, and I can point you to the right person on our staff to kind of help you with any of your interests or questions you might have about prescribed fire. So prescribed fire in Maryland, it's growing. Interest is growing considerably. The size of this group speaks volumes to that. As far as getting fire on the ground, a little bit about what we've been able to accomplish as an agency between us as well as our cooperators so far in 23. As an agency, the Forest Service has done about 25 burns on 660 acres. A lot of that is understory on the lower shore. Some of it is grass for habitat and things like that. But more impressively, a lot of our cooperators have completed about 74 burns for over 8,300 acres so far this year. And those are folks like other agencies within DNR, private landowners, Nature Conservancy, groups like that. So for a little state like Maryland to have 9,000 acres of prescribed fire so far this year, I would argue is pretty good. Little side note about prescribed fire, you know, it's a great tool. If used properly. What am I trying to say here? So it's not always the best fit for every need, right? So a lot of times we'll get a phone call that says, hey, I've got a field I'd like to burn. Well, the first question is, let's go take a look at it and see if what you have in your field is actually flammable. So we're going to take a look. We're going to do a site visit. We're going to make sure that what's there is actually going to burn. You may have 10 acres of Phragmites, but if there's nothing underneath of it to carry the fire, or if it's shin deep water underneath of it, you're not going to run a fire through that. So the site and the fuels themselves really dictate whether fire is going to be a good tool for you to accomplish your objectives. And then on top of that, you know, controlling the fire is one thing, but then we got smoke to deal with. You know, here on the Eastern Shore, it's pretty rural. Smoke's always a concern, but maybe a little bit less of a concern than, say, trying to pull off a burn in Carroll or Baltimore County or something like that. So those are the kind of things we're looking at when you call up and say, hey, we want to do a prescribed burn. You know, is it the right tool for you? What else? So a little bit about how to burn. So open air burning in Maryland falls under Maryland Forest Service regulations. Our regulations apply to anything within 200 feet of the woods or within 200 feet of something that could ignite and carry a fire to the woods. As you guys, a lot of you probably know, that can be a little bit of a moving target depending on the season, right? You know, that green field in the summer may not be flammable, but over in the winter that may carry fire. So there's a little bit of subjectivity there, but generally most of the burns that you are going to want to do are going to fall under our jurisdiction. So the way that works is you decide you want to do a burn. We're going to come out and look at it. Our staff would issue you an open air burning permit for that. If the burn's under an acre, that's what you're going to need, is that burning permit. Where it gets a little more complicated, and where I think most of you would probably fall into, is if that burn is over an acre, we're going to require you to have a burn plan. You know, and what's a burn plan? A burn plan is basically just that. It spells out all the parameters.